Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to be talking about a 500 million year old jawless fish that has somehow managed to survive 4 mass extinctions. And honestly, it might just be the absolute foundational schematic for the future of neuromorphic engineering. Recently, Chinese researchers successfully mapped the brain of this ancient vertebrate in unprecedented detail. Now, if you are an AI architect designing brain-inspired computing models, this achievement is a huge deal. It is literally like finding the original, simplified source code for biological computing. So let's explore how this ancient map is actively shaping the future of synthetic neural networks. Okay, let's dive into this. What can a 500 million year old jawless fish actually teach us about designing the future of artificial intelligence? I know, it sounds a bit like science fiction, but the lamprey, which is this ancient kind of eel-like vertebrate that's been swimming around for 500 million years, is actually the perfect legacy prototype. By studying this highly simplified ancestral brain, we're not just looking at the past. We're essentially looking at the early beta version of modern synthetic brains. It gives us a really clean, fundamental look at exactly how biological intelligence scales up from the ground floor. To get this data, researchers built what's called a spatial single-cell atlas. Now, this is not just some basic two-dimensional anatomical drawing. No, it's a complete 3D cellular map. It tells you exactly which cell is which, what genetic molecular signatures are active right inside it, and its precise physical location in the brain. For anyone out there designing brain-inspired computing models, this breakthrough is an incredible architectural blueprint. It lets us visualize these incredibly complex neural architectures in 3 dimensions, showing us exactly how nature successfully wired up its very first processors. To put that into perspective, just think about how we use Google Maps. Google Maps identifies cities, roads, and traffic patterns so you can navigate a physical place efficiently, right? Well, this spatial brain atlas does a remarkably similar thing just for biology. It maps out brain regions, exact cell locations, and intricate neural pathways. And understanding the layout of this biological hardware, like where the information traffic flows and how the structural roads actually connect, is absolutely crucial. It helps AI architects deeply optimize the layout efficiency of our own synthetic computing hardware.
It's really helpful to think about the evolutionary timeline here because it explains why this specific creature is so valuable. Over 500 million years ago, the lamprey appeared, and it split off from the human lineage way before sharks, reptiles, birds, or mammals even existed. Because that split happened so incredibly long ago, its simple brain is the perfect scaled-down prototype. I mean, before we can ever hope to reverse engineer the massive interconnected complexity of modern human supercomputers, we have to understand this basic model. It gives us a stark contrast to human cognitive processing, letting us isolate the fundamental building blocks before millions of years of messy complexity were piled on top.
So, how did the researchers actually pull this off? They effectively reverse engineered this blueprint through some really rigorous computational integration. First, they collected brain tissue and meticulously isolated thousands of individual cells. Then came the genetic magic, single-cell sequencing to capture the exact RNA fingerprint of each cell, followed immediately by spatial mapping to pinpoint their physical homes in the brain. Finally, a massive 3D reconstruction brought the whole shebang together. They beautifully combined genetic fingerprinting with spatial mapping techniques to build a fully digitized 3D architectural model of the brain.
Now, what's really mind-blowing about this data is the unprecedented resolution. Historically, scientists either knew where cells were located physically or they knew what genes were active, but rarely both at the exact same time. But now, we have cell identity, function, gene expression, 3D position, and evolutionary context all packed into one massive data set. From an engineering perspective, integrating this cell-specific genetic data with spatial position is a total game changer. Knowing exactly how gene expression dictates physical hardware placement helps architects directly optimize hardware efficiency in modern neuromorphic computing architectures. And this brings us to a really cool contrast in architectural scaling. If you compare the lamprey's neural circuitry, which uses very simple modular sensory circuits and ancient conserved designs, to mammalian brain connectivity, the difference is night and day. Mammals rely on highly scaled, dense, interconnected networks for complex cognitive processing. By highlighting these key differences, AI designers can identify the ultimate scalable patterns. We can take these simple, modular cellular insights from the lamprey and actually use them to scale up broader, much more efficient artificial neural networks, totally avoiding the bloat of unnecessary complexity. Efficiency is exactly why this ancient architecture is so relevant right now. Think about it. A modern AI supercomputer consumes megawatts of power, right? Meanwhile, a human brain runs on about 20 watts. That's practically nothing. Mapping this baseline biological neural organization gives us a literal working schematic for energy-efficient AI. If our synthetic neural networks can successfully replicate the highly efficient, simple modularity of the Lamprey's sensory circuits, we could drastically reduce the massive energy consumption that's currently bottlenecking modern AI hardware designs. Nature already solved the power efficiency problem. We just need to borrow its blueprints.
Okay, so the crucial point here, and this is where things get really wild, is biological fault tolerance. The Lamprey have this remarkable ability to naturally regenerate its nervous system and completely repair severe spinal cord injuries. That is something mammals absolutely cannot do. When we translate this biological spinal repair mechanism into synthetic network terms, it is the holy grail of fault tolerance. Connecting these ancient Lamprey repair pathways provides a crucial, working blueprint for building self-healing AI, an incredibly robust computational hardware that can adapt to and seamlessly recover from catastrophic system failures.
But it's not just AI hardware that benefits from understanding these systems. The exact same conserved cell types mapped out in the Lamprey Atlas offer medical researchers absolutely vital clues for treating human neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. By examining these ancient biological programs, scientists can see exactly how neural networks are actually supposed to function and repair themselves at a foundational level. This regeneration data directly informs future therapy models. So the biological data helping us build resilient artificial networks could very well be the same data that helps us repair the human mind. Let's quickly summarize these core evolutionary and engineering lessons, especially for any students tuning in. First, ancient neural circuits act as our foundational biological designs. Second, simple modular circuits are the true building blocks of complex brains. Third, spatial gene mapping directly reveals highly efficient hardware layout strategies. Fourth, nature's built-in fault tolerance is a literal blueprint for resilient, self-healing AI. And lastly, biological energy efficiency still vastly outpaces our best modern supercomputers. These are the absolute key architectural lessons to keep in mind when looking to biology for technological inspiration.
So, what is the ultimate endgame here? Where does this foundational mapping lead us? Well, the massive, long-term goal in this field is creating a complete single-cell atlas of the entire human brain to power highly detailed digital brain simulations. The Lamprey map we've been talking about is the foundational proof of concept. By showing that we can completely digitize the hardware of a simple vertebrate brain, it massively influences our long-term goals of perfectly modeling human digital brains. Advancing whole brain simulation starts right here with a 500-million-year-old fish, before we can even think about scaling up to human consciousness.
And that leaves us with one final, deeply provocative question to chew on. If we can successfully digitize the exact blueprint of a 500-million-year-old brain, how close are we, really, to perfectly simulating the human mind? The architectural foundations have officially been laid. We finally have a complete map of where it all started. The next great challenge for both neuroscientists and AI architects is actually building the simulation. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for those incredible connections between ancient biology and the future of technology.